Hey, Delaware. Welcome back to another episode of That Delaware podcast. And today, since we are now into the new year, what we are going to be talking about is buying and selling, but more specifically, what are buyers and sellers Googling? Like, what are their questions about buying and selling? So, we asked our good friend Chad what those top 10 questions were, and we chose a few of those questions, and we're going to chat about that. Guys excited?
To clarify, in case you haven't seen previous episodes, we call Chat GTP Chad.
Everybody knows Chad.
Yes, Chat GPT is
Chad GPT is our man Chad.
Let's get into it.
So let's get into it. All right. So the first two actually are kind of go together. So it's, can I afford to buy a house right now, and how much do I need for a down payment?
That's a very personalized question. First, I would say you need to talk with a lender because they're going to help you come up with a plan. And then as far as the down payment goes, they're going to help you decide which one makes the most sense for you, because you don't have to put 20% down. I think that's a common misconception that people think when they think, all right, I'm going to start thinking about buying a house, I need 20% down. You don't. It depends on the program you're going to go with.
Out of perspective, I was thinking about this recently, of like the transactions you guys have done in the last year. How many of your clients have put down 20%?
A lot.
Very few.
For me, it's one. One has put down 20%, and the rest have put down less than 20%. And I feel like that's something that is, like, I think one of the biggest misconceptions about buying a home is that you need 20%.
It is. It depends on your situation, right? So usually you see that when, like, you have a move-up buyer.
Exactly. Yes.
Right. So they have equity in the first house that they
Right.
purchased years ago. Or sometimes the situation that I come across is somebody that's lived at home for a long time and they've been able to save that money. But rarely do you see somebody putting down 20% that has been renting, because
It's hard to say.
they have bills. It's hard to save. So that's the typical situation when you're putting down 20%. But I think that is great to note, because that is a common misconception. And so what people should know is you can put down a minimum of 3%.
Yes.
So, and on average, so FHA, 3.5%, but there are some conventional loan products where you can put 3% down.
Yes.
Yes, if you don't have a 20%, you're not necessarily behind, and you still have options to hold off.
There's also, if you're a veteran, you can put 0 down payment. So but you have to qualify for that VA loan.
Yeah.
And USDA is another one. We don't see a ton of that up here in Newcastle County, maybe below the bridge a little bit more.
Right.
USDA.
And I also think what we need to clarify for people as well is, people think down payment and that's it. They don't think about like total closing costs. So your down payment is part of your closing cost, but you have closing cost in Delaware. Transfer taxes are 4%. It gets split between the buyer and the seller, so each pay 2%. Now, if you have extra money and you're writing an offer and you want to pay some of that seller's closing costs, you can pay some of their transfer taxes. You can just say, broad, you can put this towards your closing costs, whatever. That's getting into an offer. But in general, it's 2%. Buyer and seller split it.
So to bring it back to the initial question, you can't really possibly know if you can afford to buy a house until you talk to a lender and a realtor and build your team that's going to kind of help get you to the finish line.
Yeah.
But I think that point that Amber just made, it's not just, do I have the down payment? You should have the down payment plus the closing costs. That's the piece that so many first-time buyers don't know that they even need to be saving for.
Yeah. I remember even my dad asked me, we were having a phone conversation, and he was like, oh, how much do I need for a down payment? And I had to explain to him, like, well, you also have closing costs. He's like, what? So, like, he's never purchased a home before. So a lot of people don't know that. So if you're looking at stuff on the internet and it's telling you X% down, you also need to include closing costs, which are not just transfer taxes. It's transfer taxes, it's your appraisal, it's lender fees, it's attorney fees, like all of that. So
And on the
Okay.
other side of that, there's also there's grants and things that lenders have access to and programs, first-time home buyer programs that can cut into those closing costs. So really, it's like a whole big picture situation that there's a lot of fees and costs you have to consider. There's also a lot of resources available to home buyers.
Yeah.
Right. And don't forget settlement help. You
Exactly.
have the ability to ask for a certain amount if it's not a super competitive situation from the seller to cover some of your costs.
Yeah.
I did that with my first house.
So
Actually, I
did
did that with my second house too.
Yeah.
we did too.
I was going to say I did that with my first house. I asked for seller help, and then I also used Delaware State Housing Authority loan, which they have out now. It's 4% towards closing costs and down payment. So, like Caitlin said, there are certain options available now. Things change, so talk to your lender, talk to your realtor to see what's available. But there's help.
Next question.
So that's good. So, all right, now we've got our money saved. We're ready to go. We know what our down payment and closing costs are going to be. Is now a good time? Is now a good time to buy?
Our favorite question.
Yesterday is a good time to buy.
Hold on one second. Let me check my crystal ball. Oh, there we go. Yeah, yesterday.
Yesterday.
I stand by the fact that I don't think you can time the market. I think you should buy when you are prepared and the right house has hit the market. And if you're not in the market looking, you haven't done the homework, the legwork to get yourself prepared, you'll miss that opportunity when the right house and the right opportunity arrives for you. It's so personalized.
It's very personal.
But people who are waiting for the right time to buy are the ones that get into trouble because you're going to keep waiting and things are only going to get more expensive. So if you are able to do it now and it makes sense for you, then now is the right time to buy.
And if you think that the market is going to just like crash and that's what you're waiting for, because there are people out there that are like, I'm waiting for the market to crash. I don't think that is a good strategy. I think that's a very bad strategy. I don't see that in our future with the inventory levels that we have right now. So not my recommendation.
Yeah. It's a very personal decision. So it depends on like what's your situation. And that gets into the next question, which is, should I rent or should I buy? Right. So depending on your personal situation, and Caitlin, you said you can speak to this because you were a homeowner, you were married, you got divorced, now you're renting. And so that's a perfect example of what is your current situation and what are your goals for the future.
I went through this 2 years ago. I got divorced and I immediately was hoping to buy because I was used to being a homeowner at that point. I'd been a homeowner for a few years after being a lifetime renter. And I'd gotten accustomed to that lifestyle, and buying was not an option. I hadn't had my real estate license for long enough to be able to qualify for a mortgage on my own. And I've been renting happily for the last 2 years, and it still has not made sense for me to buy. And I'm going to be moving to a new rental this year. It still doesn't make sense for me to buy. But I'm saving, and when the time is ready, I'm going to be ready to.
Yeah.
I always feel like if you don't know that you're going to be in a house, probably if you could make it to 5 years, that would be a really good goal.
Absolutely.
Or longer. If your
Minimum 5 years.
if your situation is in flux and you could have a job transfer or you just aren't sure that you like that location long enough to stay there, I wouldn't necessarily recommend buying. I would probably encourage you to rent. Now, if you are thinking I'm going to buy and it's going to be an income producing property in the future, different situation.
Absolutely.
But if you're thinking, all right, I'm just buying for me to live in it and then I'm going to sell it when my situation changes, the longer you can see yourself potentially living in that property, the better.
And I will say, like, in terms of affordability, I feel like there is this notion that renting is more affordable than buying. But honestly, if I was to buy the house that I'm renting now, my mortgage would probably be less than what I'm paying in rent. So my reason for not buying at this point isn't affordability. It's because I'll probably be moving and relocating, and I don't want to buy when I'm not like totally comfortable with the area where I'll be moving to. And I think that's a very valid reason to keep renting.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So just know your situation. Also, I would encourage you to think what your life might look like in 5 years. So if you are at an age where you're thinking about maybe I'm going to get married, maybe I'm going to start having kids, maybe don't buy the 2-bedroom house, buy something that's a little bit that you can grow into if you can afford it. Because my first house was a 2-bedroom and we very quickly outgrew that property. So just from my own personal experience, unless you're going to turn it into an income property, try to buy something that your family can grow into. Doesn't have to be huge, but space matters.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny that you say that because I'm feeling that. Like, we need more space. And one of our colleagues just said that her buyers passed on a property because it was too much house for them. And I'm just like, huh? Too much house? Like, if you can afford it, it works for you. I'm like, because I'm in that mental space right now where I'm like, I could use too much house. Like, that sounds amazing to me, because you collect so many things through the years. Sometimes your family grows, you want an office.
That's funny. I am also in a point where I feel like we either need to add on to our house or we need to move. But my husband does not want a big house. Like,
Yeah, I understand the too much house thing
I
too.
understand it too. I don't want to be cleaning more bathrooms.
In my mind, it's like more work.
See, so when I think of too much house, like, I don't want a big house. Like, I don't think we're thinking of the same house. But granted, obviously there can be too much house, absolutely. But me, I have such a tiny house. I'm like, and I don't want a big house. I'm just like, more space just sounds great either way.
Yeah.
Or even like different space, the way it's like
Different space.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. And that goes into the next question is, what are common first-time buyer mistakes? And that just made me think of one of the questions that I talk about with my buyers is like, what are you looking for as far as square footage and space, right? And some people have this specific number, right, in mind. Like when they say, oh, I'm looking for a house at 350. Well, what does that mean payment-wise? We don't even know that yet. So let's dive into it, right? Same with square footage. They say, well, I need at least 2,000 square feet. But it depends. It depends on how the house is laid out, because we've gone into homes that are 1,500 square feet and they're like, wow, this feels bigger than the house that was over 2,000
Absolutely.
square feet.
Yeah.
And sometimes like those bigger houses, like there's so much wasted space.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, why? We like could have like done something with this, or, but that's one of the mistakes is, when you're searching, don't limit yourself to, 2,000 square feet, whatever it is. Like, be very broad, be as broad as possible. That's also part of the conversation that we have with our buyers is, even area, because if you're limiting yourself to zip codes, you could have a house that's like right on the edge or, 5 minutes this way and you miss out on it because you're not opening up to that area.
I would also just a nuanced point about the square footage. It depends on how the appraisers calculate square footage, is how we can put it into the MLS. So you could be looking at a house that has maybe it's a split level, and the appraiser isn't going to allow us to count the first floor square footage the same way as the second and third levels. So it looks like it's smaller, but usable, functional square footage is very different. So be very careful if you're rigid on the square footage number.
That's really smart.
Along those same lines of mistakes that buyers make, I definitely think that like setting your parameters at something very specific when you're searching, especially for first-time home buyers. I've had this happen a lot. I've worked with a lot of first-time home buyers where they have like an idea. I want like 2.5 bathrooms. I want like air conditioning, or central air conditioning, and they're first-time home buyers who are not in like the best position to check all of their boxes.
Right.
So like when we start the home search, I might go into, this home might not have central air conditioning, but let's look at the cost of installing mini splits so that like this house is perfect for you in every other regard, but it's under your budget. So maybe you can put the money into that and make the upgrades and build the equity that way. And I've seen a lot of buyers in those cases get offer rejected after offer rejected and then wish that they had gone for the house that maybe didn't check every single box.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good tip for especially first-time home buyers, is know that your first home might not necessarily be your dream home, but you're building equity for yourself. And
Yeah. And a good point to that is when you're looking at a home that doesn't have central air, that easily mini splits could be added, or you could even, the ductwork's there and you could add central air and pay, $5,000 to $8,000, whatever it is. There's less competition because those other buyers have that same mindset. I don't want window units. I want central air. Same with the bathroom situation that you mentioned. Especially with those buyers that are in like under 300 in Newcastle County. So if you're under 300 in Newcastle County, my question to you is like, absolutely, do you need 1.5 bathrooms or 2 bathrooms? Because again, with the search, if you're setting your search up for 2 bathrooms and you have this house that it checks most of your boxes and it has 1 bathroom, you're going to miss that opportunity. And who knows, like there could be, a bathroom that you could put in the basement or, somewhere else that could be added on. Like you said, you just invest a little bit of money there.
Or I'm pretty sure I've told this on the podcast. I know I've talked about it on my own Instagram, but when my ex-husband and I were on our home search, we specifically wanted a neighborhood with sidewalks. That was like one of our criteria. And we just kept rejecting all of these houses that were in our price range that checked every other box because the neighborhoods didn't have sidewalks, which is very common in North Wilmington where we were looking. And then we bought a house in the city, which wasn't where we wanted to be ultimately, but we figured for now. Then we got priced out of all the neighborhoods with and without sidewalks in North Wilmington. So that was, if I could go back in time as a first-time home buyer, I would not have made that call.
It's funny. I have never had a client ask
Yeah.
specifically about sidewalks,
So
but Caitlin talks about this a lot.
It was a big one for me.
That's what I was thinking as she's talking. I'm like, that's interesting because I've never had anybody.
One mistake that I think a lot of first-time homebuyers tend to make, and I've seen this for years, is if your parents' opinion matters during your home search, if their opinion has any weight at all, bring them from the beginning. Because if they aren't seeing all of the houses that you've rejected and you just bring them to the one that you're excited about and you're like, this is the one, they're not going to be as excited because they haven't seen all of the other ones that you've rejected. They may not have been in the market for a long time. So their sticker shock is going to be very different if they bought in the 90s and they're spending the same amount that you're spending now for your first home and they're in their forever home. So bring them early on if their opinion matters. And if you want to bring them at the end, just remember that their mindset's going to be very different than yours. They haven't done the legwork in today's market and today's prices and what that money can afford you. So don't let any negativity sway you because you've already done the legwork. And I know we've all experienced that.
Absolutely. I just had a previous buyer that I was chatting with. And she said, I still think about that other house. And they purchased a single family, but there was another single family in a little bit more of a desirable area, although it was dated slightly. And it was just a little bit more. They could afford it, but it was just a little bit further out of their budget. And she's like, I wish we would have just sprung for that because now it's going to cost her so much more. And now, like, they were pregnant when they bought that house and now they have 2 kids and they are growing fast. And she feels, again, space, right? So it's just like, too much house, really? I don't know. Yeah. So next question, we're going to move on to sellers. And sellers are wanting to know, how do I prepare my house to sell? And also they're asking about, should I stage it and what repairs should I do? So that kind of all lumps into one, right? Because it's all preparation. So how should I prepare my house? Should I stage it? What repairs should I do? What do you think, ladies?
Everybody's like,
Stager. So absolutely.
I mean, obviously, yes to staging. That's a given. We're always staging. We're staging. I stage for free for all my seller clients all the time. So that's a yes. Repairs, it's funny, actually. I was just interviewed by Out and About. Their February issue is going to be all about this. So Out and About, get your Out and About issues. They're free out in the community. But yeah, actually, that's kind of the subject, like what repairs to do. Some of it return on investment, right? Like, and some of it depends on. I mean, if you're selling in the immediate future, you're gonna want to really look throughout your house and all those things you've neglected over the years that need to get done, right? Like and small and big. So, but you're going to make different decisions based on how soon you're selling. And, if you want to still live in the house for the next 2 to 3 years, you might do different things, right? So, that you can enjoy yourself. So I would if you're selling in the immediate future, take yourself out of it. You're going to want to do all those little repairs you've neglected, like fix the caulk in the bathroom. I don't know. Give me like the leaky faucet,
broken outlets.
Yeah, like a stain on the ceiling. You're going to want to paint the ceiling.
Right.
Make sure that buyers have anything obvious.
Years ago, that might not have been the case, but in the market that we're in right now, where things are a little bit softer, it's definitely more of a conversation.
True.
Say.
Yeah. I would say,
I mean, yeah.
Your buyer doesn't want to come in and think that you have not been taking care of the house.
Right.
So anything that is glaringly obvious, just fix it. I mean, depending on the price, because there are times where I'll say that is not worth your time or your money to make that repair. Let's price it into the price of the house. And
yeah.
It.
So ultimately, you're going to want to have a conversation with your realtor. And you're going to want to have them walk through, and I mean early on.
Yep.
I will get phone calls or people that refer me and they say, my sister wants to sell her house, but she wants to do a few things first. And I'm like, well, now's the time where I need to come in.
Never
and
too
I need
soon.
to say, let's do X, Y, Z. They want to remodel the bathroom. And I'm like, let's not remodel the bathroom. Okay. Like we can spend that amount of money in other areas where can give you a bigger return on your smaller investment. So we're going to maybe switch out the light fixtures, maybe just switch out the vanity, or maybe we're painting the vanity, just putting new flooring in there. Right. If we're going to like change the cosmetics. But the biggest return on investment is obviously decluttering and professional cleaners.
Yes.
Professional cleaners and painting. Like Kristen said, like people don't want to come in and have to like feel overwhelmed with like all this stuff that they're doing. Most people, right? Some people can see past it, but not everybody has vision. So like there's this saying that I heard on a podcast, and I heard it a long time ago. This agent used to take 2 pennies to his listing appointments, and one was a dirty penny and one was a brand new shiny penny. And he was like, you have these 2 pennies, right? Which one would you prefer? They're both worth the same, right? But which one would you prefer?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants the shinier one, right? The clean one. Right. And I always say, we talked about this before, like I need to know like when I'm there giving you recommendations, how does your house smell?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like that affects it. Mm-hmm. Like I need to smell the house.
Also, a lot of times,
more than you think.
A lot of time, if you've been living in a house for a long time, you don't really see these things yourself. That's why you really have to have a realtor that you trust.
Exactly.
And that you know that they're not offending you. They're not. You might love your decor. You might have American flags all over your house, and you think that is like the pinnacle of interior design, and you think that's amazing. But your realtor will explain to you that some light staging might be important, because I think it's important to talk about like the psychology. When people come into your house, they want to be able to envision themselves there.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
neutral is good. Depersonalizing is good. Taking down everything that is very like specific just to you and your family, so that someone comes in and can imagine themselves there.
And you want an agent that's going to be honest with you, right? Like I've been on listing appointments where I've told them like, this is what we need to do. And obviously I say it in a kind way. And I also let them know that, listen, if I had to list my house, my list would probably be longer than theirs. But they've had other agents tell them, oh, it's fine. Just put it on the market. And I'm not going to tell you it's fine. We can just put it on the market, because I want you to get the most return out of your investment. Like I'm not here, like I'm going to be respectful, but I'm not here to like sell you.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not going to be insulting, but I'm going to tell you what I would tell myself.
Yeah,
exactly.
We've got to do these things.
Exactly.
The most money to sell your house the fastest. And we don't have a crystal ball, right? Like we don't know we just put our best foot forward, and that's what we're helping.
We do have the experience, and that's what we're speaking from. And that American flag example was a real listing appointment where they had rifles and American flags hung on every square inch of their living room.
Wow.
And
Well, things in your house can also be very distracting, right?
Yeah.
I remember going in one house and this person had real life baby dolls, I don't know, and like bottles and diapers and everything all throughout the bedroom. And I couldn't get and I'm a professional. We could not think about anything else in this house except for the baby doll situation in the primary bedroom. So
My general rule of thumb, and people remember this and they laugh about it, I'm like, anything with eyes, get it out.
I like that.
No, seriously, it's funny because people remember that over the years.
so
Anything
good.
with eyes, and sometimes I'll make exceptions. I'll be like, well, that picture of your dog is really cute, so that can stay. But anything else with eyes has to go. So that covers like your baby doll,
Family photos.
your Jesus statue in the corner, like. Yeah,
That's a good tip.
Family photos, of course, are coming down because we're depersonalizing. Also, you don't need to advertise your family when you're selling your house. You just don't.
Yeah, because
So,
then we're walking through and we're like,
Do I
yeah,
do
they're
that?
trying to figure out.
It's Delaware.
it's Delaware.
It's Delaware.
We're and sometimes we do, right?
A lot of times.
And we don't need to, again, back to the psychology, like a buyer should be walking through your house, envisioning themselves in your house, because it's going to be theirs. And I tell people too, I'm like, listen, of course, I start out by being like, I would tell myself the same thing. So try to disarm people. But, it's hard when you're walking through your house and you're making all these changes. But I always say, like, this is not for you. You have to remember, this is not your house anymore. This is someone else's house. And we need to prepare it to be someone else's house and make them fall in love when they walk in,
It's a really good point. It's not for you. It's
not
somebody
for you.
else's house. Like that's the goal
And that's
for
the
somebody
difference between like doing interior design is okay, let's customize, let's make it personal. We're not doing that here. We're making it for the next buyer. So, and once people kind of like, okay, you're right, then all right. And then they can hear it a little better,
Yeah. People are easily distracted. They don't have vision. And so when you have a lot of personal things, like we're now not even focusing on the house. They don't even remember the quality parts of the house because we were talking about like your shot glass collection and I remember when we went to Jamaica and those things. So neutral is always best. So how much will I make when I sell? And I think that goes back to preparation. How well have we prepared the house? And timing, all of that, right, goes into that. But ultimately, you're going to have that conversation with your realtor, right? Okay, benefits of listing now versus later. And then at the end of the day, you're always, always, always going to have a net sheet from your agent before you sign that listing agreement. And you can see all of the fees broken out. So like I said, transfer taxes, 4%, split between the buyer and seller, whatever the commissions are, all of that needs to be broken out.
And if you're selling your house and you have not seen a net sheet from your realtor, I would consider like having that conversation with your realtor or finding another realtor.
Yeah, because I was going to chime in. Amber's saying that like everybody gives a net sheet, and that is not true. Definitely make sure you see a net sheet before you sign any listing paperwork.
That's why I said you need to have a net sheet. The last thing you want to do as a seller is show up to closing. And listen, this happens when I do give a net sheet. I have had some of my friends and, maybe that's why they're like, oh, Amber sent me this. I don't need to look at it.
Well, the other important part is you need to, as a seller, you need to be responsible and have all the information and be providing your realtor with accurate information, because I see it happen all too often that get to the closing table and someone didn't realize they had another mortgage on their property that they didn't know about or forgot that they had signed something during the pandemic.
Right.
Like
one common thing that comes up is if you've been through bankruptcy in the past, you need to look to see if you had your mortgage actually wiped, because a lot of the time it is not, and it gets it's still a lien on your property, and that surprises a lot of sellers because they thought, okay, I went through bankruptcy, this is gone. You need to make sure and confirm, because that can mess up a lot of sellers.
Yeah,
it's common.
And like Caitlin said, when we went through the pandemic, a lot of people signed agreements or, excuse me, made agreements with the mortgage company and did a modification on their loan. And that's on the back end. And some people don't realize like what the cost of that was for them. And so now it's happened so much that they had to put that in the disclosure where a seller has to fill that out. Have you done any modifications to your loan? Because again, the last thing you want to do is day before closing, you get the Alta from the attorney and you're like, this is the amount.
I mean, it happens way more often than it should. Just from people not
way more
keeping
often
track
than
of-
it should.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's so much to unpack in these questions, and we're trying to like speed through because we could sit here for hours and give you recommendations and talk about the nuances. And that's why you need to talk to a realtor.
Yeah.
Should I sell before I buy, or should I buy before I sell?
That is
What's the magical
situation
answer?
dependent.
I mean, I always tell people, hey, if you have the means to buy before you
Yes.
sell, do it because it's going to make the selling process easier.
Absolutely.
It also gets you mentally, like you'll be in a new place. All your stuff will be out of there and you don't have to deal with the hassle of people coming in to do showings while you're still living there. So that's a dream situation.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
obviously not a lot of people can do that because you need the equity you've built in your first home to buy your second home.
Most
people,
Most
right?
people can't do it.
No.
There are options, right? Like, and most people will buy and sell contingent, and that is stressful. And what I tell all of my clients, and if you are one of my clients and you have bought and sold contingent, you know how stressful this is. Because in real estate, nothing is 100%. And, people will say, oh, under contract, oh, my house is sold. Oh, honey, your house is not
No,
sold.
it's not sold till it's sold.
It is not sold yet.
Well, let's unpack what contingent means because I think a lot of people we use this word all the time in real estate, but a lot of people are, what does that even mean? So when you make an offer, if you're still living in a home and you need to sell your home before you can buy the next one, you're going to have a home sale contingency, right? So in other words, you can't go through with that purchase until you've sold your other house. So just wanted to kind of clarify that because people probably don't know what that means.
That's perfect. Just like it's all of these are contingencies, right? Like, so it's my home sale is contingent on me purchasing this next house or vice versa, whatever the situation is. You're purchasing a house and it's contingent upon the inspection, upon the financing, right? So there's a bunch of contingencies in the contract, but that is one often used when you're buying and selling. It's contingent, right, on the sale or the purchase. And
if you work with a good real estate agent, I learned this from when I first got into the business. There could be several home sale contingencies. Like it's like a domino effect, right?
I did one this year before.
And so a good agent will make sure all of those dominoes are lining up and check in on all of those transactions.
A ton of communication. You have to really trust your agent and trust that your agent is a good communicator because we were checking in every day, making sure that there were no hiccups.
Yeah. And also know that like this is a domino effect and like you only have so much control over things, right? That next agent only has so much control over things. And so just like I said, real estate is things fall apart all the time. And unfortunately, we don't have control over everything.
But there are also a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that clients don't ever even know about that we're like cleaning up or we're making sure that documents are signed that, somebody almost forgot about or all those things that do happen behind the scenes that we, to the best of our ability, can control. But there are certainly a lot of things outside of our control too.
I just had a closing right before Christmas and I was like, so actually we weren't really going to be here at one point, like a couple of days ago, because XYZ happened, but I pushed back and, and they were like, what? And I was like, you didn't need to stress about it. I did.
I stressed for you.
Yeah. I stressed for you. So with that, we can also mention, you can do a bridge loan. That's an option.
A bridge loan allows you to access the equity of your home to purchase the next one without having sold it. And that's usually done through a lender.
Yeah. So then what other options? So you could also do like a home equity
line of credit.
There's also programs that these can be expensive, and I don't know exactly what they're called, where the bank buys your home, so you're making
Annie Mac has that buy now. What's it called? Buy now, sell later program. So, and that's with a local lender. So, yeah. So you're thinking of?
Yeah. So you have to pay a lot towards that, but you purchase your home, the bank purchases your home, and then whoever buys your home pays the bank.
Yeah. So there's options out there. Yeah. Everything has a cost.
I was going to say
it's like a pro and con to everything.
Yeah.
You just and also talk out what makes sense for you.
Yeah.
Situation.
And I would say, it's worth mentioning, some people will just call their big bank like Chase or Bank of America. Those banks are great in other ways, but work with a local lender when you're doing
for sure
this, because those folks that they have access to these local programs, they will be available for you on the weekends and at night, whereas these big banks are hard to get on the phone even. So I would just say work with a local lender, and we have plenty of good people to suggest. But
also buy and sell situations are definitely stressful, but they're possible. I used to be very intimidated by this, but I've done a few now, and I think if you have a good realtor who's a good communicator, and who has good connections in the industry, then you really shouldn't be intimidated by it.
Not necessarily intimidated, but just understand, like, set your expectations realistically and understand
you might not
there are going to be
for your house as you might otherwise. You're going to have to move very quickly. You're going to have to be more flexible about the offer that you accept, but it is possible.
Yep. Totally doable.
What I always tell my people is, listen, we need a plan A, B, C, and D.
Yep.
Because anything that can happen in real estate will.
Yeah. Always have options.
Yeah.
If you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, hopefully people, I know we couldn't go deep into everything, but it was kind of like
surface level.
Yeah. And if you have questions and you're thinking about buying or you're thinking about selling, reach out to us. It does not matter if you are thinking about it in the near future or in the distance. The sooner you start educating yourself and talking with a professional, the smoother your experience is going to be.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for tuning into That Delaware podcast. We will catch you on the next episode.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of That Delaware podcast. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at That Delaware podcast and our team page at RosaioTeam_real estate. And of course, if you have any real estate or Delaware questions, feel free to reach out.